I call this Letting Go into Love for the theme of February. So in The Curious Voyage is the book that I wrote, and it's The Curious Voyage to Authenticity. So it helps us release that which is blocking our hearts. And what we're going to do tonight will be some exercise based on the book and some thoughts from the book, but not exclusively. So I just wanted to welcome you all. For those of you who do not know me personally or our paths haven't formally crossed, I'm Cynthia Schwartzberg, and I'm a brain spotting therapist, trainer, and consultant. And that's a form of therapy where you work very deep in the brain and the body connection, so that if something is troubling you, you also work with it, your eyes focused, kind of in a focused mindfulness way, to help release and get to things that are hard to get to through talk therapy. But before I came into brain spotting, I was doing a process called core energetics, which was working with energy and consciousness. And I've been working in the body, mind, and spirit world of therapy for about 40 years now. And along the way, a lot of people would say to me, how come you haven't written a book? Or why don't you put that in a book? Like I'll do something in a session and then they recommend that to pass it on. Because the exercises that we've done in class, in this session, has been very helpful to people. So I launched the book, The Curious Voyage to Authenticity, back in 2021, and I recently relaunched it. And the reason why I did was for two things. One is somebody suggested, well, I changed the title because it was originally The Curious Voyage. He said, well, where are you going? And it sounded like a travel blog. But so I added where we're going is to authenticity. And then I also included much more of a narrative to take the reader on the voyage from the beginning, the middle, and the ending of the voyage, so that there's some continuity, and added more story and exercises with it. So if you're familiar with the first book, that's the big difference. And it's hard to do self-help books on your own. So I don't know if anybody has done a self-help book from start to finish, but many times we don't get to it all. And this will be launching also into some classes. I started a class on the book and people found it extremely helpful. So that's the purpose behind that. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to introduce some of the concepts around love and the fear that's blocking us and our hearts from expressing our love in relationships and in the world and in our work. And I want to first invite you to introduce yourselves by putting into the chat. You can add your name into the chat, and then if you could say a word or two that you relate to the word love. It could be something like compassion or kindness, but some words that remind you of the vibration or the energy of the spirit of love. I'm going to read some of these out loud. And while I read them, what I'd like to invite you to do is just sort of feel into these words as you kind of like just breathe into your body and receive some of these words. And you can also keep reading them in the chat yourself. Connection reminds me of connection, the things that binds and connects all things. Generosity, powerful, open heart, wholehearted, connection, warmth, commitment, caring, available, unconditional, kindness and grace, empathy, supportive, joy, action. Thank you all. I just read some of these, but they're beautiful. Allowing people to be who they are and supporting their journey towards wholeness and presence. Thank you, Monty. Being true to self. So just notice
You're
how
welcome.
words resonate with you. Okay. And let these words kind of encompass us tonight and support us as we journey in and go deeper into the material. So, one other thing I'd like you to do, and if you can undo your camera, that would help. But I'm going to ask you to point to yourself. So, just point to yourself and notice where you choose to point. And if I look around the room, I see some other people are pointing to their hearts. So thank you for sharing. And many of us will point to our hearts. We reference ourselves really from our hearts. And you can relax your hands if you want. You can keep your hands on your heart. Actually, let's take a moment to keep our hands on our heart and just breathe in and out into your heart. And as you breathe in and out, feeling your hands on your heart, notice if you can imagine your heart breathing. So breathing in and out from your heart. And notice how it feels to breathe in and out from your heart. There's actually a company, Heart Math, and that's one of the things that they teach. So we can even expand that out from ourselves. And it does change how we receive people and how people experience us. Okay. So what I'd like to now do is to just read a few paragraphs from the book, The Curious Voyage to Authenticity. And this is from the preference in the book. And let yourself hear these words, and we're going to start to work with some things that come out from here. Throughout this voyage, you will have an opportunity to evaluate the current rule book you are using to run your life. We all have one. Our rule book consists of the things we were taught by our family, community, and society at large. Traditions, ways we were taught to treat people, values, priorities, and collective attitudes and beliefs. It can be wonderful if we want to continue to move through life on automatic pilot, but often living on automatic pilot isn't reflective of who we truly are. We will explore how when you respond to life on automatic pilot, you may be going against your personal truth and authentic self. Don't worry, this guidebook will help you become aware, evaluate, edit, and in some cases, rewrite your rulebook as it really takes you where you want and need to go. Ultimately, this journey you and I are about to undertake will ensure that you discover how to follow your heart and connect to your true nature with love and care. Once you find this core essence of your being, you will inevitably discover that you really do not need to have those old rules after all. You will connect to a deeper truth that it's beyond all rules. So some of what we're going to talk about tonight has to do with the rules that we have around love. But we know, like from the words that we read, this is truth. And sometimes I think love is truth. But we get lost in the mundane and the things of life. So when we reflect on this, I want to share a story of something that recently happened to me in terms of authenticity and intuition and rule books and love. So I recently was feeling a pressure to try and get something done. And when I tried to get this something done, my intention was good. I thought it would really be very helpful. However, it had a very negative impact on somebody who then came and reported to me all of the things that were very wrong with me. At least this is the way my egoic mind quickly grabbed that response and went on a trail. Actually, my whole body did. When I was reflecting on this, I realized my intention maybe had a negative impact. But if I look deeper, from when I started to do this action, I realized that I was pushing forward and I wasn't listening to my own intuition. So I have a question. How many of you have ever had your intuition sort of knocking at the door in your mind or tapping you on the shoulder and you did not listen? Anybody raising hand? Yeah, right? So sounds familiar. Well, this took me on a deeper journey of getting very curious of, okay, what was it about that I didn't listen to my intuition? So fear can show up in a number of ways. And fear in this situation, I talk about three primary ways that I've learned about fear showing up. It can show up by a pushy, forcing will. So, it's like barricading our way through a project or an event or trying to get our point across. But in this way, I was like pushing what I thought was right, but I had like blinders on. I wasn't really keeping my mind open and I wasn't really hearing all the input that was coming at me internally and externally. So when this event showed up in a negative way, I started to feel the attack of being judged, which reminded me of my rule book. Because in my rule book, we do things really, really well, or we get judged and criticized. And I was in some way trying to push to do something good, but many times what happens is it ricochets backwards. So what I'm pushing forward and what I'm afraid of is the exact thing that shows up in my face. Sound familiar? Yeah, nodding heads and smiles. Uh-huh. So that's one way that fear may show up is by us working that way. Another way is and what happened in this was once I was in my blinded fear, I had to talk to people and I had to like try to validate myself because I felt so little. So there's a thing called pride. And with pride, we can either be better or worse, but it's very either or. And so I was feeling bad and I had to get some sort of, I did feel like, yes, I needed to get some real help and support. And I went to take care of that with, some professional help and support. But I also went digging deep inside to see what this is really about. So journaling is also often very, very helpful. Well, once I noticed that fear was showing up by me getting more and more frightened, I was losing more and more awareness and things were getting worse. But the more I dug deep, the more I learned, the softer everything started to become. And my thoughts started to open wider and my vision got clearer and my heart also opened. So I started doing some more self-forgiveness and self-compassion talk and working with original wounds that added to this so that I could find a way of living more from my heart and redirecting and pausing my rhythm to hear my intuition more. So I say all of this because what I want to invite you to do is to peel away and think about something for yourself that, and one other thing I have to share with you is while I was exploring this, I was meditating and I focused and I noticed that I was focusing on this card that was sitting on my desk. I thought it was something else for the longest time, but then as I'm exploring it, this is what I discovered. It says, a woman is like a tea bag. You never know how strong she is until she gets into hot water. And that's by Eleanor Roosevelt. So I thought, wow, we learn and we grow from these things. So what I'm going to invite you all to do now, is, yeah, there's the quote, is with, I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do some writing and to write about an incident that happened in your life where fear somehow showed up. That something happened and you got really upset about the incident, and then how you might have even gotten upset with yourself. Like in the situation I gave, I got really hard on myself because we often will treat ourselves the way others, our parents or our caregivers or key people taught us to treated us. So what was an incident that was guided by an act of fear for you? What about the incident actually upset you? How did the fear get triggered in that incident or during the incident? And how did it show up or impact you or the other person? Like, were you being pushy? Were you feeling small? Were you not in the mood to go out? Were you kind of withdrawing in your behavior or your feelings towards somebody, or were you rationalizing what was wrong with another person? Is write about it and see what comes up for you. Okay. So we're going to transition now to, and I just want to, I'm going to do a little guided meditation to help us shift, but I'm going to suggest that you just sort of shake your hands and feet out and sort of roll your head and just sort of wiggle around a little bit, bop up and down, just to sort of, it helps when we shift our body, like move a muscle, move a thought. Thanks for telling us that, Laura. Good. I'm glad it was helpful to share. Um, so, um, what I want to suggest now is that when we are bringing up all of these things and we're in awareness about them, it's a good idea to just be with them and get curious even a little bit more. So for tonight, we talked about self-will, pride, and fear. And when I first learned about these three spaces and places of fear, I learned that on the other side of them is love, power, and serenity. And what I'd like to guide you in is a journey around wearing these cloaks of fear and releasing them. So I invite you to put on some music if you want. We made a suggestion with some in the letter, and then to get yourselves really comfortable. So we're going to go on a journey for probably a good 12 to 15 minutes. So make sure that you're in a comfortable space. Notice what's around you. Notice how it feels. Just really get yourself comfortable, whether you're sitting or lying down. And this is an exercise that I got sort of from here, but I'm going to change it for the work that we've done. Okay. So as you're getting yourself settled, notice your breath. As you breathe in and out, See if you can bring your awareness into your breath. Just notice if it's shallow or deep. Just bring your attention to the muscles behind your eyes. You can do this with your eyes opened or closed. Bringing your awareness into the muscles behind your eyes. Just seeing if you can soften the muscles. Our eyes work so much and so hard, taking in our environment, scanning around all the time. See what it's like to give to your eyes and soften the muscles around your eyes. And then just notice your facial muscles, your ears, notice the sounds that are around you, the sounds you might be listening to. And see if you can soften the muscles around your throat. Sometimes when we're tired, our throats get tighter. Just feeling the breath in as it passes through your throat. And ever so gently bringing the awareness down into your shoulders. Times we're working really hard, we get hunched over or we get tense, feeling lots of burdens. And just sensing down into your arms and your hands, and keep kind of scanning down your body, getting really curious and noticing how you're feeling, and if you can relax the muscles a little bit more. And all the way down through your legs and down into your feet. Once you get all the way down into your feet, maybe you want to just sort of wiggle your toes, noticing your toes. Just feeling the support against your back. Letting yourself relax into your seat. And I'm going to take you on a journey. And we're going to go from where you are now to a lake. And as we begin to go, let yourself go from your right foot to your left foot, to your right foot, to your left foot. Just going from one foot to the other, feeling yourself as you walk, noticing the smell of the air. Just feel what it feels like against your skin. And look at the colors around you. Let yourself get curious with your eyes what the colors are, the sounds are, the smells, as if you could even taste the air. As you continue to walk and journey over to a lake. And by this lake, there is a fire. And the fire is burning by the lake. It's a really good sized fire. And let yourself stand by the edge of the lake, noticing the fire there. All of a sudden, you're becoming aware that there's a few cloaks of cloth on your back. And these are made up of the fears that you experienced during the incident that you had written about. Could be the fear, like I labeled something called self-will, but it could be like a pushy fear, a withdrawing fear, a feeling of being small or being big. Just notice what that fear is. We talked about pride a little bit. Just notice whatever the fear is around pride that might also be part of your situation, but in your own words, and whatever the fears were that and how they showed up for you in the incident that you were writing about. Just notice 2 or 3 of those cloaks. There's more, there's more. And just feel how they've been weighing on you. What I'm going to invite you to do is to very gently, one at a time, and in your own way, you're going to take off a cloak and throw it into the fire so it can be transformed into something else for pure good. So you're going to take the first cloak off and just sort of get curious, like as you're about to take it off, what is the texture of that cloth? And then just throw it into the fire. And as you're tossing it, it might have already disintegrated into the air, or it might get burned. If it has a smell, notice that smell, but notice how it's getting dissipated and gone. And then see how that feels in your body. Then we're going to take off another cloak and just throw it into the fire. Just let it go. And see what happens when you just let it go. Letting go of anything that was attached to that for you. And just notice how it feels. What's your back feeling like now when you just let that go? And we're going to do one more round. Just let it go. Or as many as you that are there, that whatever you want to throw into the fire, just throw it into the fire so it transforms to something better and something good. Let yourself just be by that lake. And this lake, the temperature is perfect for what you love to go diving and swimming and exploring in. And notice what your feet feel like when you get really close to that water. Notice how the water smells and what it looks like. And there's an invitation that you just jump into the lake and let everything wash off. Just let it all wash off and just dive into the lake and dive deeper and deeper down into the lake. Don't worry about the air. This is perfectly fine for you. It's wonderful. It feels so good to just dive into the lake and let it go. And for whatever that means for you. Notice how that feels. And as you're going down and exploring deeper depths with the release of all of this, you discover that there's a shelf with a box on it, and this is a treasure, and it has your name on it. And I invite you to go to this treasure, and this treasure is representing love and support for whatever it was that was bothering you. There's a gift here for you to support you to shift into this space of love and all those beautiful words we used earlier to describe love. So you breathe in and out in this magical way that you can in this water, and you receive this gift, tuck it into your heart, and slowly, when you're ready, come back up to the surface. Let yourself come out of the water with your gift. We can thank the lake and thank the fire. And we're going to begin to come back into this room. The same way that you left here, you can travel back into the room that we're in, very gently shifting your weight from the right foot to the left foot. and coming back. And I invite you, when you get back and you kind of wiggle your toes, you can press your thumb and your index finger together, and then your middle finger, your ring finger, your pinky to your thumb. Just wiggle your toes, wiggle yourself around, and slowly roll your head around and come back in to this space. And take a moment to write down what that gift was while you're still in this space. So I said yes, and it's good to get value out of these opportunities. So I hope that you got some value from tonight, and that it helps you as you enter into February and the month of love, and sharing it with others. So thank you so much.
Yeah.